Actually, I'm about to give birth soon. Were you surprised? This child is his. We've been nurturing a forbidden love while you were hospitalized. His, Tom. My head went blank as I listened to my mom, who was speaking with the excitement of someone about to burst into song. While I was battling cancer, my husband and my mom were having an affair. It wasn't my imagination that my mom's belly seemed to be getting bigger every time she visited me in the hospital. When I was discharged, my mom showed off her belly, which was so swollen it was obvious she was in her final month of pregnancy. Sorry. I got pregnant with his child. You're sick and useless, so I'm divorcing you. I quietly agreed to the divorce without a moment's hesitation and left the house immediately. Later, when I imagined the panic on my husband and mom's faces as they discovered the unexpected turn of events, I couldn't help but laugh. My name is Lynn. I didn't grow up in a very good home environment. My mom, Yvonne, gave birth to me when she was 18. Maybe because she had me so young, she never really seemed to understand what it meant to be a mom. She was too busy running around and having fun to care about our family. Her friends praised her for being cheerful wherever she went, but at home, she was often indifferent or even cold to me. In her life, I was just a small part, and I rarely felt any warmth or affection from her as a mother. On the other hand, my dad was a famous potter. As a craftsman, he cared for me, but he was shy and awkward and not very good at showing his affection directly. Still, I was grateful to him. If it weren't for him, I might not be alive today, given how neglectful my mom was. When I was in high school, my dad had a stroke and has been bedridden ever since. To help with the household finances, I gave up my plans to go to college. My mom was completely unreliable when it came to money. I got a job at a local trading company right out of high school. Since my mom didn't help with my dad's care, I had to juggle work and taking care of him. During the day, I had to rely on a caregiver while I was at work, which was also expensive. Even with some financial aid, it wasn't enough, and I struggled with daily life. 6 months into this routine, I started to get used to balancing my job and caregiving. Around that time, my boss, Tom, proposed to me. If you marry me, we can manage your father's care and other things together, right? With double incomes, you can rely on me when needed. Plus, having a man around the house would ease your worries. Tom's proposal felt more like a strategic move to exploit my weaknesses rather than words of love. Even so, I had been dating Tom, and there must have been some affection involved. In the end, I felt like I had no choice but to accept the marriage for practical reasons. After we got married, Tom's attitude changed abruptly. Despite being supportive of my job before marriage, he did a complete 180 afterward. As his true nature became apparent, my daily life grew more exhausting. You should quit your job and focus on taking care of your dad and the house. Now that we're married, there's no reason for you to keep working. Wait, didn't you say that if we got married, we'd have double incomes? Besides, I want to keep working. My desire to continue working was largely influenced by my mom. She never worked and depended on my dad while she partied around. Not wanting to become an irresponsible and selfish woman like her, I wanted to be a self-sufficient, working woman. However, Tom laughed at my opinion. Can't you get a clue? You're so dumb, you need it spelled out for you? What? What's the problem with me working? It's a huge problem. High school grads are a burden to the company. What? No one has ever told me that, and I'm working hard. No one would say it to your face. No matter how hard you work, a burden is a burden. The harder a high school grad tries, the more they inconvenience everyone else. Tom's mockery made me afraid to go to work. Even though I knew his view was biased, I couldn't help but wonder if there were others who disliked me for just having a high school diploma. I didn't choose to stop my education. I wanted to go to college, study, and enjoy campus life. Despite my frustration, Tom's relentless demand that I quit my job eventually left me with no choice. I became a housewife, dedicating myself to housework and caregiving. I realized that I was being treated not as a partner but as a convenient tool, leading to a lonely marriage devoid of affection. However, my dad's condition didn't stabilize and kept getting worse. He caught a cold that turned into pneumonia, and he ended up in critical condition. I desperately tried to contact my mom, but she acted as if nothing was happening. Mom. Dad's condition is really bad. This might be the last chance to see him. Can you at least come see him once? Why should I go? Sure, your dad and I are married, but we've never really lived together properly. I have no interest in seeing a useless old man who can't work. Besides, has he even asked to see me? Dad can't talk right now. Then there's even less reason for me to go. I'll go see him after he passes. Hearing those words, my heart froze instantly. After that, my mom stopped answering my calls, and she never came to see my dad before he passed away. True to her word, she showed up only after the funeral was over. She probably avoided coming before the funeral to escape the hassle of being the chief mourner. Her calculating and selfish attitude was obvious to the relatives and acquaintances present, and many frowned at her behavior. When she finally returned, she had a nonchalant smile on her face. Finally, he's gone. I'm here to collect the inheritance. He was earning, so there must be some money, right? She showed no sadness about Dad's death and only talked about money. The relatives were appalled by her behavior, but since she had a right to the inheritance, she made sure to get her share, which was really unpleasant for me. Another 6 months passed, and this time I received bad news about myself. I was diagnosed with cancer. I felt like the unluckiest person alive. From the moment I was born to such a mother, I had no luck at all. My life has been a series of tragic events, and this diagnosis was the most devastating blow yet. I was still in my 20s and felt hopeless about having cancer, but when I told Tom, he didn't seem concerned at all. Wow, cancer? They say it progresses faster when you're young, so you better get treatment quickly, right? How much is that gonna cost? Do you have insurance? Yes, but are you worried about the money first? Why should I worry about your health? It's the doctor's job to fix you. Me worrying is pointless. Is that something a high school grad can't understand? My job is to provide the money. But if it gets too expensive, you'll have to give up your life. Facing this harsh reality, I couldn't figure out how to move forward or even how to fight. Tom's cold words left me very depressed, but I couldn't stay down forever. I tried to stay positive, but it was a shock when I had to be hospitalized for a year to focus on treatment. Every day, I wondered if I would survive and leave the hospital alive. During this time, both Tom and my mom visited me. However, I couldn't help but notice that they always came together. My mom was a party girl who was rarely home. The only time she and Tom had really met was after my dad's funeral when she came to beg for her inheritance. Yet, Tom and my mom always seemed friendly with each other. Strangely, every time they visited, my mom's belly looked bigger. It wasn't like she was just gaining weight, her belly was clearly swollen. I couldn't help but ask Tom when my mom stepped out of the room. Hey, doesn't it seem like my mom's belly gets bigger every time she comes? Have you heard anything? Really? You're imagining things. No way. Only her belly is getting bigger. Do you think she might be? Maybe she just gained a bit of weight? She's your mom, so don't comment on her body. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off, but Tom didn't take me seriously. Eventually, my mom stopped visiting altogether. Occasionally, Tom visited me, but even those visits gradually reduced until he stopped coming altogether. The white walls and impersonal bed made my loneliness feel even worse. Without visitors, I felt like I had been forgotten by the world. And it often made me cry into my pillow. Despite the loneliness, I managed to get through the year. I was able to leave the hospital, cancer-free. I told Tom and my mom the good news, but neither of them came to pick me up. I completed the discharge process and returned home alone. Though it was lonely, I was excited to finally be home. So, I was shocked to see my mom's belly so big that it was obvious she was in her final month of pregnancy. Welcome home, Lynn. Actually, I have something important to tell you. I've been waiting to introduce you to this child. Mom, you're pregnant. Yes, I am. The baby is due soon. Were you surprised? This child is his. His, you mean Tom? Wait, Tom and... Yes, that's right. Tom and I have been nurturing a forbidden love. My head went blank as I listened to my mom speak with the excitement of someone about to burst into song. It wasn't my imagination that my mom's belly seemed to be getting bigger every time she visited me. Tom, with his arm around my mom's shoulder, smugly flared his nostrils. It's your fault for getting sick. You're no longer fit to be my wife. A woman who's not healthy has no value. Sorry, but I'm healthy enough to get pregnant. I don't need a sick wife. We plan to start a new family, just the three of us. So, we're getting a divorce. My mom and Tom were ridiculously cheerful. Tom handed me a completed divorce form, and I silently filled in the blanks and handed it back. I packed only what I needed and quickly left the house. Without a moment's hesitation, I walked out. The next day, my phone kept ringing with calls from Tom, so I reluctantly answered. You've ruined everything. My life is a mess because of you. Oh, really? I regret marrying you too. My life has also been pretty messed up because of you. Now I need to find a way to be happy. I don't care about your life. Just come to the place I'm about to tell you, now. Tom, furious, told me to meet him at a nearby cafe at a specific time. I didn't have to go, but I thought I should at least have a final talk, so I went to the cafe. Not only was Tom there, but my mom was there too. You must have said something unnecessary. It can't be anyone else but you. Tom's excited rant was incoherent, but as I listened, I began to understand the situation. Tom had gone to work this morning as usual. However, his usual morning was disrupted. He was suddenly called by the boss and thought it might be about a promotion, but it wasn't. The boss had ordered Tom to transfer to a subsidiary in a remote area. Tom was good at his job. He had been the ace of the sales department, always performing at the top level. The news of a transfer to a subsidiary came as a complete shock to him. Tom, flustered, asked the boss. Excuse me, sir. There must be some mistake. I never asked for a transfer, and I don't think I've done anything to warrant this. You should reflect on all your actions before you speak. What do you mean? I haven't made any mistakes at work, and the recent deal went well. I'm saying that a man who betrays his wife can't be trusted as a person. We can't have someone like that as the face of our company in sales. How do you know about that? The transfer is final. If you can't accept it, then resign. Tom was left speechless. He assumed I had told the boss. You must have fed him some lies. What did you do? Tom, in his fury, confronted me, and I couldn't help but laugh before nodding. Yes, now you get it? Actually, my dad had a brother. That man, my uncle, was the boss of the company where Tom worked. He was a busy man and couldn't attend my dad's funeral. Tom had no idea until now that my uncle was the boss. My dad was expected to be involved in the company, but he rebelled against his parents in his youth, wanting to pursue a career in art, and left home. This estrangement probably contributed to my uncle and dad not being closely connected. However, when my dad had a stroke, my uncle reached out to me, saying, "Let me know if you need anything." It was only then that I learned my uncle was the boss, and even my mom didn't know this. I've always been in touch with the boss as family. But Mom never visited Dad in the hospital, and Tom, you were never interested in me, so you didn't notice. This happened because you didn't care about your family. It's your own fault. After I calmly stated the facts, Tom hid his anger and pleaded with me. If the boss is your uncle, then he'll listen to you, right? Please, convince him to cancel this transfer. No, I won't. Why not? Your husband is in trouble. I signed the divorce papers yesterday, remember? You and I are no longer married, we're strangers now. As I coldly dismissed him, my mom started to get angry. You can't cut off family ties. Don't act like we're strangers. How can we live in some remote place with a baby on the way? Then don't live together. We never lived together properly anyway. Kids can grow up without a father. And, Mom, you act like a victim, but are you sure that baby is even Tom's? What? What are you saying? Of course it is. That's impossible. Tom is infertile. While my mom stood there in shock, I handed her the hospital test results I had brought. This is a lie. These results are fake. Tom, who knew nothing about this, turned red and tore up the test results, but that didn't change the facts. If you think it's a lie, get tested again. The results will be the same. Actually, Tom and I had wanted kids soon after we got married, so we underwent fertility testing. But just as the doctor was about to report the results, Tom had to rush off to deal with a work issue. He left the hospital without hearing the results and had never followed up. Tom seemed to be calming down from his initial anger, his red face gradually turning pale. So, if that's the case, whose baby is Yvonne carrying? I laid out the investigator's report I had prepared on the table. The documents in the manila envelope spilled out, revealing photos of my mom leaving a hotel with a middle-aged man. This guy is Dad's apprentice, right? My mom had been having an affair with a student from my dad's pottery class for years. Seeing my mom's swollen belly had made me suspicious, so I hired a detective to investigate. When Tom saw the photos, he turned on my mom. You deceived me. I'm gonna sue you for damages. I don't have that kind of money. I can't pay you. What about the inheritance from your husband? I know you got that money. I spent it all already. What? Then why did I even bother wooing an old lady like you? It seemed Tom had pursued my mom for her money. Tom sighed and scratched his head before turning back to me. Please, give me another chance. Tell the boss that the divorce drama was just a misunderstanding. You're the only one I love, Lynn. Please believe me. Spouting a big lie, Tom made his self-serving demands. One of the nearby customers, who had been listening, patted Tom on the shoulder. When Tom turned around, he saw that the customer was my uncle. I heard everything. What? Boss, why are you here? It seems the divorce drama was no misunderstanding. You are clearly not someone we can trust. You should be grateful you're only being transferred to a subsidiary. I'd like to fire you, but that's not always possible. I can't stay silent when someone hurts my dear niece. I'll make sure Lynn files for alimony, and I'll support her in doing so. Get your money ready. With a smile, my uncle told Tom, who was now pale, and then took me out of the cafe. Ignoring the sounds of my mom's sobs and Tom's angry shouts blaming her, I walked out with a clear mind, supported by my uncle, ready to start a new chapter in my life. Afterward, I filed for alimony against Tom. With the help of the lawyer my uncle introduced, my claims were fully recognized. Tom is now working in a remote subsidiary. In an aging community with no women to flirt with, he lives a lonely life. My mom tried to rely on her lover from the pottery class, but he turned out to be a typical deadbeat, spending his days drinking and betting on horse races. Even after giving birth, he shamelessly demanded money from my mom, who now struggles. Unlike my dad, he wasn't a kind man, so my mom has to raise the child on her own this time. My mom, inexperienced with child-rearing, faced many difficulties. Still, she tries hard to raise her children, fearing that the police will report her for neglecting her child. Raising a child alone at an advanced age, with no money and a useless partner, made her life extremely tough, but I never responded to her requests for help. On the other hand, with my uncle's support, I enrolled in a vocational school. Now single, I wanted to learn a trade. When I casually mentioned this to my uncle, he offered to help. Since you took care of my brother, let me support you until you can live independently. Think of it as my way of thanking you for caring for him. With my uncle's financial support, I smoothly started attending vocational school. Currently, I'm studying to become a caregiving professional. Through caring for my dad, I realized the nobility and joy of caregiving. Once I become a professional caregiver, I plan to repay my uncle as much as possible. Although he may not expect repayment, I feel it's the right thing to do. With a clear goal, my days are bright and hopeful.